So here we are again, Nixon. Another Sunday, another stream, working on my little monster animation. But this week, it's the last week. Oh, all we need to do this week is to ink and paint the water splash, to ink and paint the dust circle when he jumps, and then apply a few effects just to really finish it off. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this turns out. In fact, should we get started? So grab yourself a cuppa, because it's almost tea time. Hello friends, and welcome to today's Sunday Tea Time livestream. My name's Darren, and today we're going to finish off my animation that I've been working on for the past 6 weeks using Tahoma 2D, which is a fork of OpenToonz. And you can find links to both of those softwares down in the description below. Hope you're all doing well. Please do come say hello in the chat. Let me just pop that on there so we can see what everyone is saying. Where's my chat gone? There we go, that should do it. There we go. Great. Come say hello in the chat. Let me know who's here, especially if it's your first time. I'd love to know who's joining us today. So please come and say hello to the rest of the gang. So if you're new to these streams, welcome. I run a stream every weekend, which I host on YouTube and on Twitch. And the streams are recorded, so you can watch them later on YouTube if you need to catch up or rewatch a part that you missed earlier on. And these are a chance for me to work on a drawing or an animation in OpenToonz or Tahoma 2D, and for you to watch along and ask any questions about what I'm doing or about the programs themselves. And I hope you can find the time during the stream to join in with some animation of your own and maybe share what you're working on in our group Discord server. And again, you can find a link to that down in the description. And if you do enjoy what I do here, you can treat me to a coffee using the link down below. So before we continue, let me just check the chat and see who we've got with us today. I can see a few people are joining in already. So we had Tom nice and early. So welcome Tom, good to have you with us again today as always. Maria got here early again. Welcome Maria, good to have you back. We've got a happy person. Hello happy person. Good to have you here. And Nadjan, welcome, good to have you back. Dave! You have been gone for a long time. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, no problem at all. Good to see you today. Thanks for saying hello. Yeah, it has been about a month. Yeah, do give us an update at some point. Let us know how you're getting on with things. I know the last time you were streaming, you was putting together your 5-minute preview scene for the start. I wonder how that's going. Is that going okay? Is that progressing nicely? You was about to get into recording the voices of music, I believe, sort of the last time you was around. Kronos, hello Kronos, welcome. Welcome to the stream, good to have you here. Oh, it's great that a few of you have joined us so early today. Good to have you here today. So yeah, so today I'm going to work on the little monster animation that we've been working on, and unless something goes madly wrong, I'm expecting to finish it today, all being well. Keep your fingers crossed. I've got 1 or 2 question marks around the water splash that I need to ink and paint today. So we'll see how that goes. But as I've said for the past couple of weeks, the idea is to finish the animation, get it completed, not necessarily get it looking perfect. So I'd like to at least get it inked and paint up to a certain stage to have it reasonably looking, but we'll see how that goes today. Cheers Adjan, thank you very much. Yes, please do like the stream if you want, if you enjoy it, let other people know about the stream and share it with them. So thanks for doing that today. So before we crack on, should we jump straight into what's happened since I last streamed? What happened last week? So this section is just a chance for me to let you know about any OpenToonz or animation news that I've heard about since we last streamed, to share what I've been working on, and to share with you any information about my plans for the future, to share what you've been working on. And some of your art and animation again is shared in the kitchen, as you'll see during the break a little later on. So first, let's take a quick look about my last video that I made. Let's bring this screen down. Okay, so the last video that I released was 2 weeks ago, almost 2 weeks ago, and it was about using vectors more efficiently and effects, especially for backgrounds. And the tip was about using pre-renders or snapshots of your complex frames, so that OpenToonz doesn't have to calculate all of your vectors or effects as you work through a project or when you render, and it really speeds things up. So very keen to get this out. Something people have talked about for a while, about how to improve the speed of OpenToonz, and I've got a few tips I want to share in that area. And it's something that I came across the previous week when I was working with the vector brushes, and my scene was slowing down just working with it and drawing normally. But by using this method, it allowed the scene to pick up speed again and make it much quicker for editing. So do take a look at that if you haven't seen it already. And during this past week, I also changed the thumbnail a little bit and the title to try and make it a little bit more relevant to the subject. So hopefully you will enjoy that. I'll be using Tahoma 2D today, Adyan, which is basically OpenToonz with a few bells and whistles, a few changes, but everything I'm doing today you could do with OpenToonz as well. Oh, Dave, sorry to hear that. Oh, so sorry to hear that, my friend. Absolutely it has. I bet it has been distracting time. Yeah, no, you look after yourself and your family at this time. Yeah, absolutely. No rush to get back into the studio and do things as far as any of us are concerned, of course. You take care of yourself with that. So, sorry to move on after that news. Oh, that's terrible, Dave. Just to I'll leave you with that one, Dave, to talk about your trading with Kronos. So what's the next video I'll be working on? It's about the Tahoma 2D perspective grid and perspective grid tools. So I've been having to play this past week with those and get into grips with them, engaging in conversation with Manong John about them and adding some suggestions for improvements, some of which he has implemented, so we'll see those, and hopefully that'll be in the latest nightly release in the next week or so. So I'm hoping to make that video in the coming week, but it's quite a lot to put into it, so quite a lot to script, so it could take a little while to pull that together, but hopefully for the end of next week it'll be there for you to look at. So there's no other OpenToonz or Tahoma news I want to share today, but I do want to share a little animation by our very own Heiner, who, after working with a walk cycle on the stream with us, he continued with the character Mr. Nobbles and started to put him into different situations, and he's released his first full animation with him, and I've got a link to that down in the description, and he shared it over on the Discord server. I wanted to just play the first few seconds for you today for those that haven't seen it. It is basically taking inspiration from the old Lemmings game to add multiple characters, multiple copies of his walking character. So do take a look at that, and there'll be a little surprise at the end there that you might not be expecting. So I'll pause it there and leave that with you to take a look at in your own time. just wanted to get that all out of the way. Yeah, I can't quite jump straight in and carry on immediately. I don't think, Dave, with that news. It's difficult. It can be a difficult time. I know. I lost my mum a couple of years ago, and you really need to take your time with these things. So I hope you're looking after yourself, and I hope things are starting to progress for you at least. Yes. Oh, that's good then. That's good. Okay. Yeah. Well, you take care. You definitely take care. So let me jump on to today's job then, today's little task. Let's pop into the drawing room here. Oh, I've got all my things popping up. Get rid of those. Adjan's asking, is Windows 7 good for animation? I guess it depends on your system, the computer system, your actual computer itself, whether it's good or not. I believe OpenToonz works on Windows 7 as well as Windows 10. I don't see why it should crash anymore on Windows 10 particularly, but if that works for you, then great, that works for you. I'm considering upgrading to Windows 11. I've already got the update on my computer ready to install, but I don't know if OpenToonz or some of the other software I use play nicely with it, so I'll find that out at some point. I might even do so over the Christmas break, because I intend to have a bit of a break from YouTube over the winter period. I'll be here next weekend for another stream, and that may be the last one before next year, or may do a second one. I'm not 100% sure yet. We'll see how we get on. But today I want to finish off this little animation if we can. So let's see where we are so far. Let's hit loop play on this. It'll take a while possibly to cache all of the frames. It's not doing too bad there. Yeah, that's the problem with Windows 11. It needs certain hardware for it to be installable. But yeah, mine's ready. I just need to decide when to jump into it and give it a go. But I did want to reset my computer anyway at some point to uninstall all of the software, the extra software I've got on that's clearly slowing down my computer. So I need to have a good old rummage around and get it sorted to run a bit smoother. So I might do all that at the same time. We'll see how we go. So yeah, so I finished all the ink and paint for this little monster fella. Last week we did the colouring of the background and of the character, so that's all ready. So today it's effects day. So I'm going to first work on the water splash effect to try and ink and paint that in. That's the biggest question mark for me as to how smoothly that'll go, as to whether I can get a decent looking ink and paint, because it's often easy to sketch a decent movement until you try and draw neat lines around it. So we'll see how that goes today. And if it doesn't work out, I might just do that offline and try again another day. So we'll try that first. I then also want to ink and paint this little dust trail effect beneath his feet when he jumps. And then finally a few effects around the scene. So the reflection of him in the water is too crisp, too clear, so I need to add a couple of effects to that. And I was going to use the node effects to do that. And then a little bit of a blur I was thinking, either on the clouds or background, just to soften it up a little bit. And finally the colours are very saturated, so I was thinking of toning that down a little bit. And again, rather than adjusting the individual colours, I was going to throw an effect onto the whole scene to see how that turns out. So we'll see how that works. Hen the Pen, hello, welcome to the stream. Good to have you here again. It's confirming that OpenToonz and To Home both work on Windows 7. And you've been doing so for 2 years. Great news. That's kind of what I thought. Yeah. So yeah, if Windows 7 works best for you and OpenToonz works smooth without crashing, then go ahead. Absolutely. Okay, let me just pop on some background music, as I've done for the past couple of weeks. Let me know if it's too loud or too distracting at all. I think it helps fill in the gaps when I'm not talking or there's not much interesting to say or to take a look at. Have a little drink first. Cheers. And I'll be keeping an eye on the chat window, so do still join in the chat. Send any messages through, either for me to answer any questions or to chat amongst yourselves while you're here. And as I say, if you want to share any of your work that you're drawing or animating today, pop it in the Discord server and I'll take a look at that. Cheers, Dave. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you. I just want to finish it off today. I've been going for, it's the 7th week, which, as I've said before, even though it's taken me 7 weeks to get this far, realistically, this is only a day or two's work if I was doing it away from the stream, rather than doing a couple of hours at a time during the stream. So yeah, I'm really happy with how it's gone so far. It's been an interesting series of streams we've done to put this together. And I've had some thoughts about what I'd like to do next in the upcoming streams. Little cartoons, animations, tasks and what have you. But I'll put that together over sort of the winter period until over Christmas until next year, and then start of next year we'll work on the next plan. Okay, so it's the water I want to take a look at. Let's just bring this onto screen. Here we are. Let's make this timeline slightly larger so I can see what I'm doing. So let's lock all the columns so I don't accidentally start editing on the wrong column. I need to add a new column to ink this a bit neater. I've not Chronos, not that I've noticed. Not this time. Often the Windows updates do affect, which is so annoying, do affect the graphics side of things on my computer. So I need to often update my graphics driver as well shortly after the Windows update, because some things seem to conflict in some way, or I need to edit the my tablet driver to make sure things are working again, because some things reset, some settings reset. So every time there's a Windows update, I often have something to change or notice something going wrong. But the PC itself, no crashing from that, from the updates. So I'll keep an eye as well on the Discord server. So if you do want to share any art or any of your sketches and animations, drop me a message in the chat in case I miss it, and we'll take a look at that during the stream as well. Okay, so I want to add a smart raster level, which is the equivalent of a Toonz raster level in OpenToonz. I'm not going to bother naming this one. Just put the column to the very bottom, so let's bring it to the top so I can see where we are. And then name the column so we can recognise it if we look in one of the schematics. I will add a brand new colour, because I don't like working with the first two colours because you can't delete them. Even though you can edit colour 1, you change the colour, you can't delete it. So as I often do, I change colour 1 to just a bright colour so I recognise if I accidentally start drawing with that. But I want to actually draw with a blue kind of colour for the water. And because we're in a smart raster level, I can change that colour later, so I'm not concerned about getting it spot on right now. So let's hit save. And before I go any further, as I've been doing the previous few weeks, let me run up my OpenToonz backup tool so I can get a backup copy as I'm working today, just in case things go wrong. So again, we're already set up from last week with the monster projects directory it's going to monitor. It'll back up all files in the project, so let's begin monitoring. And if I just hit save all and then check that a copy gets saved in the bottom messages list here. It always takes a little bit longer for the first one. There we go. So I saved it as version 461. And if I look in my project folder, I've now got a backups folder, and there is 461, the backup I've just taken. So I'll leave that to one side now and let that do its own thing in the background. Koyola Tech, hello there, from Colombia, welcome, good to have you with us. Ah, you're a student on one of the courses, good, great to have you with you today. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat or just join in the chat with everybody else. Good to have you with us. So I've got an example on my second screen, which is just below the camera here, of a splash. And I've got that to help me with the colouring of this, as well as this shape and style a little bit. I don't know how easy this will be for me to look at while I'm on here, but we'll give that a go anyway. So I'm going to step through this one frame at a time. So this is in YouTube. Right, so I've got it in the right place, I press pause, and I can use the greater than, less than keys to step backwards and forwards through the frames to see how they've drawn it. And it's a really good example that I'm looking at, and we'll see if this really helps. So let's bring this to the centre and zoom in a little bit. So before we go any further, I want to change the brightness of the sketch that I've got, so it's not so much in my face. I'll leave the colour as it is, I think, for now, and choose the pen. And always when you start a new drawing session, check out the options at the top of the screen, because OpenToonz and Tahoma remembers the options you had the last time you worked, which could be for a different project and might not be at all what you want. So I've got overall, I'll have a little bit of smoothing. The size, let's just draw a line and see how it looks. That's too thin, so hit undo, make it larger. A little bit smaller than that, so I think size 4, probably about right. Let me just check. Yep, I've got that issue again with the tablet doing the dots when I go near. I really need to check that before I go live on the stream. So let me delete those lines, hit save, and then I will just mute myself and hide the camera as I unplug and replug in the input for the tablet. Okay, that worked nicely. So what I unplug is the USB connection from my tablet to the computer, and that just resets it. It seems to work fine after that. Yeah, almost, Tom, almost. But it really is so you can't even just bang it around as I'm climbing over the desk, because the cables are over there, so there might be a small scream at the same time. Could well be. Okay, so first frame, let's just start this off. It's a pretty simple bit of a sketch. As it moves up, so I will just trace this as it is, trying to make sure that the curves are all nicely curved as it is water that's moving here. And ideally, I've gone from the total sketch, but ideally I'd draw a neater line first perhaps, and then come back later and draw the ink line over the top so I can really trace it. Right, let's see how that looks. It looks a little bit thick possibly actually. I'm going to bring it down to 3 and try again. Question here from Queryly. How can I manage my animation project with a version control tool just like Git, GitHub, GitLab? Great question. Unfortunately, there's no built-in way for using Git. You just hit save. But if you go to the preferences, there is a version control section that you can set up to use. I can't remember the source control system. There's another source control system you can use with it that has been used before. I know Rodney, who some of you may know from the OpenToonz Discord server, he set it up and used it quite successfully. There's details in the help guide. So if you go through help to the online manual and put in version control, there's full details in there. Thank you, Tom. Subversion, that's the one. But it's details of setting that up. It seems fairly straightforward. I've never tried it myself. I've got my own backup tool that I use. It would be good if we could use Git, to be fair. But at the minute, I don't believe that we can. Not automatically. I mean, I guess you could have your project in GitHub and check all the files out before you start working. Work with the project, and then at some point during your work session, you could then go through GitHub on the command line or the app, and then submit your changes there and then check out the files again and work in that way, but this won't check out the files for you. Yeah, it's a little bit complicated, but not too bad I think, Tom, but I've not actually tried using it, but speaking with Rodney, I know he said it was fairly straightforward. Okay, so 3 pixels now. This is much better. I've not got the pencil mode on, so I will have anti-aliasing, which is fine. And it's just a case of working through and making this try and look like water where I can. It's certainly worth trying and trying with. Okay, let's turn on onion skin so I can see the previous drawing here. It's quite faint there, so I need to move that up a little bit, make it clearer. So I think if I hide all the other drawings, so I can't see the background drawings, it'll be easier to work on this. So let me right click on the table picture on my new drawing level and say show this only to hide everything else, and then just show the 2 layers with the sketch of the splash in it. And now I can see the pink lines of the previous frame in there. Okay, so let's continue with this. So I'm sure that I'll get to the end of this and see plenty of flaws and wish I'd done it a different way and all sorts, but for now this is kind of what I'm working with. Yeah, I think Lee and Tom, it's kind of the main point if you are going to collaborate with other people is to understand the file system. Firstly, I've talked about this quite a few times, that to understand that the scene file in the scenes folder, so the TNZ Toonz file, is just the list of drawing numbers and drawing levels on your timeline and their exposure and any animation keys. It's just that kind of the timeline view. But the actual drawings are stored separately in the drawings folder or in the extras folder, depending on the type of drawing, if it's a standard raster, Toonz raster or vector. So as long as you understand that, you can work collaboratively with other people. So as long as only one of you edits the Toonz file at a time, there'll be no problem at all. So the second person could perhaps work on a temporary Toonz file just while they're creating the drawings, or you can create the keys and the timing and spacing in the scene file and then pass the drawing file to somebody else, and they can then just complete the drawings and they just replace the drawing file with the one that they've given you. So you can work together on the file, on the project, as long as you understand which files contains which part of your scene, so that you can share them and don't work on the same file at the same time. Or as Tom's suggesting, if it's possible, if we work on separate scenes, that's all the better. Tweet Animation Studios, hello, welcome to the stream. Good to have you with us today. Did I animate straight ahead on the splash effects? I did really, mostly straight ahead. I threw a couple of small in-betweens in, especially at the peak of the splash here. So where it goes to the top, there, I threw a couple of tweens in the middle, but everything else is basically straight ahead. It's not the perfect splash by any means. I've not done many splash effects or water effects, so this is why I was quite keen to do it as part of this project to get the practice. Absolutely, Tom, absolutely, because they are just separate files. So once you've created a drawing file, indeed as I've done here for the splash line work, so drawing level O, you could just share the Toonz level file and the palette file with somebody else, and they could then complete the rest of these drawings to ink the splash, and then they can return these two files, the O files. When you put them back into your drawings folder, Tahoma will then just pick up the new version and you can insert those drawings. Absolutely, 100% Tom. Thank you, Gemini. Thank you, very, very much appreciated. Yeah, this is why you get a lot of people that are new to OpenToonz talking about the red drawing number problem. So if you look at the timeline, instead of having white numbers for the drawings, they're shown in red, and that's because they've gone to save just the scene, which saves just the Toonz scene file and not any of the drawings. So the Toonz file is saved, so the timeline knows there should be drawing number 1, 2 and 3 from drawing level A, for instance, but the drawings aren't necessarily on disk because they've only saved the scene file. But you can choose to save just the levels on their own if you want to, but it's really quite dangerous working with one file at a time. Just hit save all, please. Please just hit save all, and you won't lose any data or drawings then. But as long as you understand which files you're working on, you can split them out, share them around, and then bring them all together later to collaborate together. Okay, so drawing number 2, let's see what we've got here. So again, I'm using the greater than, less than buttons, or the comma and full stop, or period for my American friends, to jump between the two drawings on frames 92 and 94. It's worth knowing that because the arrow keys that you might think you press move one frame at a time, so because the drawings are on 2s, you have to press the button twice to go between the drawings, but by using the greater than, less than keys, you can jump straight between the drawings, however many holds you've got in between. So all I'm looking at is to check that the loops of water are moving in the right direction. And I can see I've drawn some extra loops at the bottom, which looked like the previous frame, so it doesn't quite show the movement. So let's draw the top ones in first, because they are okay. And then we'll think about the smaller ones I was adding in there. And in fact, I will just leave them out, I think. Let's look at the next drawing. Right, so this is where the top of the water arcs away quite quickly. So we could add the basics of this line in first, the outside of this. And making sure that the lines are moving outwards as the frames go by. So again, let's look at the previous drawing and then this one. So that's where I want to have some frames in between, some splashes in between, sorry, for the back part of this movement. Right, so I can see those are moving up here. And I may well add some more in-betweens to this once I've got the inking done. We'll see how that goes today. Start from the other side. Okay, so I'll just look at the previous frame here and try and draw these moving towards us rather than away now. Right, that goes that way. So, any of you doing any drawing or animation today? Are you still working on your collaboration animation today, Tom? I've really enjoyed the last few updates you've been sharing. It's really coming together. And for those that aren't aware, Tom's been working on a small scene for a collaboration project where they're reanimating a Bugs Bunny cartoon. Don't think he's going too high. And he's working on a scene with a dragon sneezing, which is coming together really, really nicely. And if you're interested in seeing more about that, check it out on the Discord server in the collaboration channel. ToonScript, yeah, I had a little look at that myself a while back. Unfortunately, there's not as much to it as you'd like there to be. It's quite limited in what you can do with it. Yeah, that's exactly right, Tom. A few steps forward at a time. As long as you're moving forward, you are moving forward. Yes, Maria. Yeah, I've seen your card coming together. Looking really nice. I saw that you were doing the 3D thing. Trying to work on that some more and get your head into that space. As I said before to people, personally, I don't use the 3D view for that. I find it a little bit clumsy. It's kind of okay to get a quick overview of how far apart relatively different parts of your scene are. So often if you've got a foreground here, a midground, and then the background, it's nice to see them evenly spaced out. But I tend to adjust them in the normal view just by pressing the control and using the position to move them backwards and forwards. And then stepping through the frames to see any parallax to see if it's strong enough on the parallax or not. But yeah, great that you're getting in there and having a go with that. Yeah, the motion path for camera moves. That could give you, that could give you a smoother movement in more than one direction, perhaps, because it can be tricky. I saw you as sort of moving the camera forwards and then sideways and then sort of backwards, and it can almost feel mechanical as it moves, and that might give you more of an arc to the movement. No, Tom, no, please don't let me stop you. When I say limited, it was limited in I was hoping it just had more. It's really useful for managing projects, so I've not quite found a good use for it yet, but you can create a Toon script for creating a new project, I believe, or a new scene, and then creating some blank drawings, so creating drawing levels and then drawings within those drawing levels. So you could run a single script and have a new scene that you can open in the new project that has, say, 3 drawing levels already created. One for a background, one for the midground, one for the fore, or for sketch, ink and final paint perhaps. So it could be useful if you, once you get your head around it, and if you find a need to automatically create those things. Studio Ninja, hello there. I've thought about doing that, a tutorial or a video about the studio here. There's not a lot to show, and I don't know really how many people want to see it. However, in I believe maybe 2 or 3 weeks time, before the end of the year at least, I'll be putting a video out which provisionally has got a title of 2022, what do you want me to do? And it's basically, I want to put a video out saying, what do you want from the channel? What do you find most useful or interesting? Whether it be short tutorials, long form tutorials, speed paints, animations, behind the scenes, over the shoulder videos or what have you, and other. So if you keep your eyes open for that, and do let me know what you think to that. I was going to put out a poll on YouTube and Twitter and Discord to see what people think, and asking out for comments to find out what you'd like to see from the channel in the future, at least for the coming year. Now we're at the end of the year and getting towards thinking about a new year and new resolutions. I'm going to take a look back at the previous year and see if I've accomplished everything I set out to at the start. And for those that were here and watched the stream and a couple of other videos, I did have a plan of what I wanted to do this year. So I was going to take a look at that during the stream or during that video, but then ask, what do you want for next year? What would be good for you? So keep an eye out for that, and do let me know what you think would be useful. I'd be interested to hear from you all. Yeah, it can take a little while, Maria, but it's like a lot of things in OpenToonz, or I think in animation anyway, that suddenly there'll be a light bulb moment where things click into place and you'll understand what you're doing. You'll get a feel for where you need to use that effect, or in your case the 3D camera, where it's useful, where it's limited and you can't quite do what you want to do. But yeah, you're certainly heading in the right direction for that. General Wrestling, hello there Daniel, welcome to the stream, good to have you with us. Thank you, I appreciate that. And do come and join us on the Discord, link down below, and to share your work and to chat about animation and what you're working on. You'll get a lot more inspiration out of the guys over there, I guarantee it. Animation Overload, hello there, welcome. I'm very well today. I'm very well and very excited to get this little animation finished today. We've been doing this for 6 previous weeks. This is week number 7, surprisingly. So I'm really pleased to get this finished. The perspective grid is it's amazing. It's really helpful. The new controls to add the perspective grid, I think, are so much better than the old ones. So much easier to work with. I think Manong Johnson's a fantastic job, and that's why I want to make sure the next video really does it justice to what he's put in, the effort he's put in for this, and to present everything in a way that's easy for people to pick up and to understand. So this next video, as I say, for hopefully Friday, fingers crossed, is a walk around the tools to understand how to work with those perspective tools. But then the following week, I was thinking of doing an over-the-shoulder look just as I draw a background scene with perspective, so you can see them working in action, because I think you need to use the perspective tools along with some of the additional brush tool features of adding straight lines. So where you can hold the control key, if you go to the brush, you see, if I go to the level here at the bottom in the status bar, if your screen is large enough, holding the control key will draw straight lines. And, oops, I say that. Let me try again. Hold the control key first. So you can draw a straight line by using the brush, and that's going to be so invaluable while working with perspective. So the perspective tools to create the angled lines, and the key shortcuts on the brush for the straight lines. So I'm looking forward to doing that the following week, to actually put it into action and to show you some of the ways I've already seen for working with the tools, in particular the advanced controls on the perspective tool. I think they could get quite confusing, so I'm looking forward to actually getting those in play and showing how I'm using them. Happy Person, hello again. I don't right now. I've got a ton of ideas. I've got a few things I want to do, and this little project was kind of leading towards that. I wanted to do a bit of animation, some simple animation. I wanted a simple bit of movement, so it was involving the monster in here and having him jumping. I wanted him to jump up and fall down a hole was the original plan, and I changed my mind to make it a pool of water so I can work on a splash. But I wanted just to work on a bit of animation to get used to using the timeline again for timing out. I'll be throwing a few effects in here later on today. So yeah, that was the idea for this particular little animation. But I'm thinking about doing a couple of other smaller animations early next year. But again, in a few weeks' time, I'll be talking about that and getting my idea solidified as to what I want to put out there. But yes, I've got some mad plans that I'll never get to do. And the sort of plans we all have for an animated series, they are extremely mad. I'm taking it one step at a time. I'm in no rush for that at all. But if in the coming 12 months I can work on something to aim in that direction, that'll be really good. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Okay, so where are we here? Let's take a look at this. Yeah, so that's coming down here, so I need to start bringing these down already. And I'm kind of following the lines I've got, but also drawing a little bit on the fly, so we'll see quite how this goes. And again, I'm using the onion skins for the previous drawing along with the sketch that I put in here before, to try and keep the flow going in the right direction. So I'm going to add these slightly higher. This water is still kind of moving up in the centre of the flow in here. And again, move those lines up as well. So there's a slight bit of movement in there. I need to add some gaps in between the water, I think, but we'll see how that goes in a second. Again, let's start off with the outside lines. Okay, let's have a look at this where the previous lines go to. Okay, so the water at the back is starting to tip over the back now, so that starts to come down. So again, I'm following the sketch here, as well as thinking about the onion skin lines and where they are. And do that because that root line really is this one. The hardness, I got that down low there. And then again, the lines on the front need to be coming down. So it's going to be a little bit slow, this part of the process. Start to bring these down now in the centre as well. Another side piece there, I think. And adding colour onto this and painting it later is going to be a little bit tricky, I think. So we'll see how that goes. I don't like how that looks up there. I'll have a few more of these sort of drops coming off the ends. Let's put this together. Okay. So again, I'm looking at the previous lines to see where that moves there. So I say, hopefully the music's not too loud that I've got in the background there. Just to give us something else to listen to, apart from my wittering on. Right, let's try and get this centre right. Go to the centre splash there. So this is all moving downwards, so I need to flatten this out a bit. As I say, when we fill this in later, we'll see how it looks then. Try and put some gaps in here as well. Yeah, these are quite wider parts, so I probably will need some in-betweening done. But I might leave that for today. I'd like today to be really a finishing day for this. You'll have to excuse me sniffling, I'm trying not to do it too much. Good question, Animation Overload. I've enjoyed all parts of this, I think, really. But what I've enjoyed the most, I think I've said before, inking. I really like. The sketching has been fun. To start to feel the pace of the motion and the actual animation. You can see where you're going to when you're doing the sketches. But you're kind of asking yourself questions at that stage of how far should the characters move, or in this case the water for the effect. How quickly should they move? How large do they need to be? Is this keeping the same proportions because it needs to try and keep the character consistent? But by the time you get to the okay, happy person, see you in a second. By the time you get to do the inking, you've made those decisions. You've got the timing right, you've adjusted the character with selection tools and erasing out and redrawing as you need to. So doing the inking, it feels more like just drawing because you've got the lines underneath you're tracing over, in effect. And it's just quite enjoyable to just do the drawing of each frame, one frame after another, and it feels like you're moving at a good pace. So I think really the inking is my favourite, but I do enjoy all stages. Last week, for instance, adding the colour was a very quick process to suddenly get colour on the whole animation, and that kind of brings it alive in another way. But yeah, for me, inking. How about you, Animation Overload? What's your favourite, and why? Because why is always an interesting one to try and understand. He's back. That was very quick. Hopefully you got your thing done, whatever it was, or grabbed yourself a drink as as need be. Okay, so I'm trying to bring this down. That's the centre part of this splash. This is kind of a really tricky part to get this right. I think I could definitely do better next time on this. Okay, so let's look at the onion skin for this gap here, more so than the sketch I've got. I'll just bring this down, extend the size a little bit, so you can still recognise the same kind of shape. And the same on the right hand side, if I look at that, yeah. Colour that in there, oops. I won't add any of those extra lines in just yet. So that's now coming down flat, and this is where it kind of gets really messy to try and follow the shape. And it's something I didn't quite get right in the sketching stage, to find the shape as it moves. And this is what I was saying earlier, that the sketch might look okay as it moves, but when you try and pin down with an actual ink line, you really need to know where to put it, and it's kind of a bit vague at the minute. Yeah, I can see that animation overload. It does. It's loose. It's free. Especially the very first, depending how you work on your process. The very first sketching stage, where you can just be throwing down rough shapes, whether it be circles and squares or cubes or how much detail you want to put in, but you can really be quite rough and ready. So I can see that. Yeah, it's interesting how we all have kind of different parts we enjoy of the process. This goes past quite quickly, so I'm really not concerned about this looking too bad. So we'll see in a second how this looks. As long as things move in roughly the right direction, that's all that counts. Bring that down a bit more. Yeah, I'm trying to feel that arc as it falls down there. And now it's really just kind of stuck on the actual water base itself. There's very little movement around here. It's really lost its shape. So keep it and save all in between. Save early, save often, as our friend Dave likes to say. looking where the waterline is likely to be for that to splash up there. Let's move that down a little bit there. Let's just see how that looks by putting a start marker there and a stop marker at the end. Zoom out a little bit so I can see a clearer view of that. Hit save before I click on play. Yeah, well, it's good that at least, Maria, you do enjoy it in the end when you get to it. Personally, I do really enjoy the colouring process, but when we first started creating my little monster, if you remember, I tried adding texture into his fur, and I almost immediately regretted that, because colouring every frame with texture would just take far too long. So I was quite happy to drop that and use a solid colour instead, because as you say, colouring every frame and the thought of having to go back to every frame, putting this texture in or adding this extra flare of colour, it can be a little bit demoralising. An animation is hard work enough without introducing features that's going to make it harder for you to do. Yeah, learning all the time is exactly the point, and is exactly what we're doing here on the channel, myself and some of you. In fact, I was talking only a few days ago to Jer Henning. For those of you that know, he draws in vectors in OpenToonz or Tahoma. I think he uses Tahoma mostly, but he draws only in vectors. And I was chatting with him about having a character in a style that you can animate quickly, and he's created a simplified style for his latest animation so he can move it quickly. And he uses the techniques you do, Maria, where he duplicates the drawing and then just adjusts that drawing a little bit. But then he reuses those drawings. So for instance, he's got a character, to have them move across the screen, he'll reduce the height and have them bobble side to side. And there'll be perhaps 4 or 5 drawings, and then he'll use the animate tool to move those drawings to the side. So really the animate tool is just a slide across the screen, but because this little bobble that he's introduced, it looks like the character's walking, or gives that impression. So I was watching him work the other day, and he created a few seconds worth of animation like in half an hour or something, which traditionally hand drawn you wouldn't be able to do. So I've been considering how I can speed up my process and what shortcuts I can take, because I think for those of us that work on our own, shortcuts is really vital to be able to produce something. So that's something that I kind of want to start looking at early next year in 1 or 2 of my smaller projects that I want to get to. So let me turn off the sketch here. Yeah, that'll do. That's not bad at all. Let me just pause that. That's fine. So let me continue for the last couple of drawings in here. Yeah, you absolutely do. Your drawings and animations are full of texture, but they look like hard work potentially. So it's kind of that balance of what do you do that looks nice versus what can you actually do to produce the content in the time that you've got. Yeah, so texture, perhaps in small parts in the top raster level, vector fills for quick colour blocks underneath. Yeah, that's good. So I'm ignoring that centre splash for now. I want to see where the sketch goes here. So it's just shrinking down smaller and smaller basically. So again, that's coming out here. So sort of ripples on the water of where that is. And I've got a very little sketches on top showing where that is underneath. Now, have a bit of shape to that. Yeah, so we all need to find our own shortcuts that work for us. Of the style that Jay was using, it was absolutely perfect for him, for what he did. And I've already experimented a little bit with vector tools and how to create a simplified animation, and I was going to make a video a little while back, which I've not done yet, because I did some small drawings and slight animation movements in the style of Hey Dougie, for those of you with kids that know that cartoon. And that came out really nice. I was really happy with that. So I don't know if I'm going to do some of that again. I'm not sure just yet. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, he works really, really efficiently. And he's really got a handle on vector animation. When I did the colouring last week in vector on this project for the swimming pool, I struggled to get the fill colour working. So I mentioned that to him, and he's taken a look at that. Hopefully he'll be able to give me some tips of where I went wrong or where I could do things a lot easier. So it'll be interesting to see what he comes back with. So I'm going to draw this now as ripples on the water, I think. Want to really bring down the size so I can have a difference in size on the lines. The smoothing here is getting in the way a little bit. Okay, and then we'll just move these outwards. Just slowly. To kind of show the ripples moving. I've got the little lines next to it as well. These getting smaller and smaller as they're moving away. Oops. Yeah, it's a really cool trick, that, Maria, to add the movement, duplicate and move. So I'm going to let some of these disappear now. so they don't all disappear at the same time. And that's about it, I think, for that. Let me just add a couple more ripples at the side here of where those small splashes hit the side. So again, that splashed here, so I'll have a little ripple there and there. Just to add some kind of consistency so we can see the water's definitely been hit by those. And same again for the ones on the right. And then that'll be about it for the main splash, I think. Yeah, Dave did a lot of that in the early days, and then he moved on to redrawing a bit more. He really changed his style quite a bit towards the end of just redrawing a whole frame or a part of a frame, perhaps the head, it'd rotate, but then redraw the face or what have you. But yeah, it's a really useful technique. Okay, so let's see how that looks. Zoom out a little bit. The inside seems to disappear a little bit here. Let me just add something in for that. That's fine. And a little one here. Fine, that's all I want to do. And then I want to add the center splash as well. So let's show that in the sketch form. Turn off the main splash sketch. Let's see how that looks with the center splash. Okay, let's unlock that and move it to the right a little bit. I think that starts too soon. Change the end marker. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, and because it's got a delay, I don't want to draw it in the same level. It might be worth doing so, to be honest. For when I come to filling, it might be helpful. Let's see that one more time. Yeah, let's do that. So let's add this in here. Bring the sizes back to 3 and 3. Hit save before going any further. And let me in fact name this backup of outer splash inked. Make a copy of that. Delete all non-named backups. Have a quick check. And now I've got just the original backup and then this splash inked version. And let's add this in here. Okay. So again, this is just sketched over fairly roughly, because we want the feeling of the water having some life here. I'll just change shape, that's fine. It's sort of thinning out at this stage. And then the top starts to fall, so that's a little bit lower, and the bottom is still rising. It's kind of the effect we're going for. So again, the bottom's still rising a little bit, but the top is falling. And then it starts to break up as it falls down a lot quicker. Sorry, I'm really sniffly today, but I will mute the microphone to get rid of that in a second. So this is breaking up now. It needs to be bigger than that. And then hitting the water here. So there's a large piece there. There's the bottom of all of them. The second large piece and the third. And now we'll trace that shrinking down as well. So I'll do some ripples in a second for this second splash. I want to kind of show the movement of this coming up here and up here as well. I think I can take off the sketch now. Yes, I hope you're doing well today and able to do some drawing or animation. Let's just finish off these circles. And again, excuse me a second. So let's step through these. Right, so the next one has got to be, these getting quite small, and I'll bring down the size again so I can do some smaller lines for the ripples. Couple more frames of these ripples, just getting smaller. And doing these kind of small movements of lines is so easy and can be so effective. Just need to consider the direction that they're moving in. That'll do there. Let's rewind and see how that looks. Hit save and play. Good, that'll do nicely. So let's now get some colour in here. And this again is where I'm going to refer back to my reference. We talk about this quite a lot, reference, reference, reference. And I do not use reference enough, I know that. I try to when I can. Sometimes I get carried away and start drawing without using it, or don't consider looking up reference when I should to get a proper feel for movement of realistic objects like the splash, for instance. But I've got some reference here that I'll take a look at of a splash somebody else did in animation. There it is. Okay, so let's see how this looks. So they've gone really complicated for the colouring, where they've got different colour around the edge. I'm not sure how I'll do that, to be honest. I don't think I've drawn this well enough, but it's okay. I don't know. It really does make a huge difference. It looks nice like that. Let me see. We'll see. Let's, for start, erase some of these overlaps. Thanks, Maria. Appreciate that. I'm fully expecting to not be entirely happy today with how it looks, but I'd like to get a bit of a feeling of that's not bad. Is kind of what I want to feel by the end of this. To see that I can improve, it can get better next time, but it's okay enough. Okay, that's the overlap, that's fine. So for colour, let's add a new colour. And let's go for a slightly lighter version of the blue. And I can just use a bucket fill on here. Lighter still. And I'll do it one frame at a time. See the corners there not quite filled in? You can see that. If I undo that and increase the fill depth, that sometimes helps to get into those corners. Increase it more. It's not too bad. I'll leave that there, I think. And those little centre sections I've put in there, I'll leave those with a different colour, which I'll add in a second. Same as that middle, I need to add a different colour for that. Bring down the fill depth, because that's what pushed it out of the line, I think. Yeah, water is hard, and it's something that you just need to practice with, and again that's why I've decided to use water for this today. Just to give it some practice, and it helps to know where you've gone wrong by actually doing it. I need to colour that centre in a bit different, so I'll come back to you. This is where it gets tricky now. In fact, I didn't have the background on, so I hope I've not drawn this too far outside of the pool. I guess we'll soon find out, although now they are just ripples, so I can easily erase those. No, I see the gap there. See some gaps already, so let's get the brush in the end there and fill that in. And I'm kind of obviously rushing through this a little bit, so it's not too boring for you. And then I want to add a second colour, which I'll make a darker blue for some of this. Hi there, Amar. Good to have you with us today. I did think about doing the frame range and a freehand fill to get through this a bit quicker, but that's okay. I'm still not quite sure about some of the colours here. I might need to draw an area first, possibly. Again, it's going to be a bit rough and ready. It won't be quite right, but I think it will be okay enough. Let me go under all with my line. Let's go behind these. I kind of want to have a darker centre for a second for some of this. We'll see how it goes. Okay. So again, the colour's not being accurate. It's not about being accurate, it's about just highlighting certain areas. Bagels and pizza. Don't be talking about food already. It's a bit early for me to think about that. Okay. And then where this breaks up again, I'm going to take the light colour, duplicate it just by pressing plus. I'm making this even lighter. And then we fill these parts in. Again, just giving us a kind of almost a stylized colour here, just to see the movement. Yeah, I still do, Amar. Love making pizza from scratch. So let's use the lighter one there. There we go, for this one. The centre part. Just again to have show a bit of movement in the middle of the water splash there. Now let's bring on the background with the pool and see how much I've gone outside, and then we'll adjust it to match. So hit save before I go any further. Have a little drink. Cheers. So I think when I've finished the water splash, we'll then take a break and I'll come back to the rest of this stream. So let me see what we've got down here. So the pool lines. Fine. Let's see what we get then. Okay, it's also helpful to compare the colours with the colour of the actual pool. So I think there is where I need to start losing the water. Right, so grab the eraser and I'll put it into Polyline mode, which I don't do often, but it's going to be useful in this situation. So I can, oops, undo. Let me just check if that problem has come back again. It has. So I need to unplug again my tablet because it thinks I'm clicking when I'm not. So let me hit save and I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, so although it's annoying, at least I've got a way around to fix this, which is the main thing. Yeah, I love a deep dish pizza, but I tend to go for the thin just so I can enjoy the toppings more and have more. So did Pop, yes. Someone certainly did say pizza. And it's nearly getting to my actual tea time, so I'm not going to talk too much about pizza, but I love a nice pizza. Right, let's go back to the erase tool. I'm in Polyline mode to delete lines and areas. I don't want selective. And again, whenever you use a new tool on the new session, check out all the options on the status bar. What time is it here? 4:32. Well, so 4:30 as well. Are you UK based then, happy person? So to use the Polyline erase mode, you just click on the screen and it places a point. Click again for the second point, move the stylus, click again for the third, and just keep clicking to go around all the parts you want to erase. And when you've completely encased them in the line, double click on the background and then they'll be erased. And I can see there I've gone slightly a bit too far, so I'm going to hit undo and we'll try that again. So I'll go click, 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 and then careful click and double click. And it's going to go by quite fast, so we can always erase it a bit more if we want to. So I can go a bit closer for this. Click and then double click. Yeah, next frame. And then for this one, I'll just keep doing the same thing. So click, click, click around and double click. And we'll tidy this up, I think, with a standard eraser. It's a nice way to quickly delete a chunk of errors that you need to get rid of. And this one I made a slight boo hiding the background, but that's fine. So let's change the type back to a normal eraser. No, thank you, Maria. Keep mushrooms off the pizza. Too slimy. Not a fan of mushrooms. Yeah, it's a great way to self-actualize. Happy person. Great to have happy people here. It really is. Yeah. Have you got a story in mind, Soda Pop, for that? I might actually add a little bit more back in for the splash on the land, because it doesn't just disappear. Just tidying these up a little bit. Not too much. There we go, just to nick off the end. Fine. And you could use a mat in to show where the splash is going to be, but it's such a short number of frames, it's fine just to delete it, I think. So I think I need a little bit adding here. Okay. When you said you're animating a short this week, are you expecting to finish it this week, or are you just beginning? And how long is the short? Is it like a 10-second super short? Is it a 2-minute? What kind of size is it? So let me add on a bit of water here. Then fill with the lighter colour. In there. Okay. Even got 3D backgrounds. Good. I think that's a good way to go. 3D backgrounds. I'd like to get into that if I could, but for now, I'll stick with 2D in OpenToonz, I think. I'm just going to draw this, getting a little bit smaller. Because it's not bouncing, it's just hitting the ground. I'll fill that in a second. And then having it soak into the ground just a little bit at a time. Alright, oh huge, 25 to 30 minutes. That's a long short, yeah. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Again, as I say to everybody, if you want to share your progress on the Discord, always fun to see, so please do. So I've changed the outline colour accidentally there, so I'm going to use the paintbrush tool to paint on lines only in the dark colour. Make this larger, and I can just whiz over all of that, and it'll change the lines to the correct colour to keep it consistent. Good, let's zoom out and take a look at how that looks. See if it looks too crazy. Let's bring back the monster. Here he is. I think it's time to start hiding some of these sketch levels. So let's bring down the reflection sketch level there. Yep, there's the monster reflection. We don't need that. We've got the main splash and the center splash are both sketches. Bring those down. Got the dust, which I'll look at in a second. So let's click and drag over the column headers, and then I'll right click and choose fold column, just to hide those columns out of the way so I don't accidentally start editing them and drawing on them and dealing with the frames. Yes, I was thinking 5 minutes, Amar, just a short, or 2 or 3 minutes potentially, or even 20 seconds, I don't know. Wasn't quite sure where your ambition lay. So 25 minutes, 30 minutes, great. Looking forward to seeing it. Good luck. Right, so let's bring this back here. Rewind. Let's go back a bit further. And hit play, see what we get. Again, not perfect, but complete. I'm happy that that's adequate it really isn't perfect. I can see problems, but that's okay. That's okay for now. I might decide to come back later during the week and make some small tweaks. But for now, that's the movement of the splash that I was after. Yeah, no worries, Soda Pop. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's exciting. I mean, we've often talked on the various Discord servers about kind of the lack of full complete animations made in OpenToonz Autohoma that we can show off and say, look, that's what you can do. This is what you can do. These different styles are all available. Go ahead and make your own animations. So to complete a full 25 or so minutes animation, fantastic. I've not considered noises. You're not wrong, Amar. I had a little thought about it earlier in the process, if I wanted noises or not for this, any kind of sounds, and I'm not entirely sure if I'll add any in or not. I won't be doing them today, put it that way, and if I did, it would be literally me making the noises with, you know, my voice going as he runs, or tapping on the desk, or whatever necessary. Or digging into the audio library that I've got with a few sound effects. So I'm not sure yet, possibly. We'll see how we go. But let me zoom out, set up my playheads to where they belong for the whole animation. Bring that back to there, rewind, hit save. Let me take a copy of this with give it a name of All Water Complete, so I don't forget where I am. Yeah, no problem, Soda Pop. Happy to have a chat about it. If you want to just bounce ideas off me, you've got some thought, then feel free, absolutely. Yes, free sounds. I go there quite a lot, actually, for the occasional sound. Got quite a few on my local computer as well. So yeah, maybe. Because originally this whole animation was supposed to be very brief. I wasn't going to add colour. I wasn't going to do a splash. It was a very short, I wanted a pencil sketch kind of look. And I've kind of extended out of that over the past few weeks, which has been quite fun. So I might throw a few sounds on. It won't take long to do, so I might do that at some point. Let me take a look at a preview of this. Shrink it down by 2. Make sure that's zoomed to 100%, and let's hit replay. Audio Jungle, okay. And Zapsplat. Thank you, yeah. Absolutely scope creep, yes. But that's fine, that's fine. Good. I'm going to leave it there for now, and I'm going to grab myself a short 5-minute break, grab myself a fresh drink, stretch my legs, stretch my eyeballs, that kind of thing, and I'll see you back here in 5 minutes. So you take a look at the art we've got in the kitchen, and I'll see you shortly. Hello friends, welcome back. So today is all about doing effects, both hand-drawn effects, as I've already started to do with the water here, as well as using the effects nodes you've got in OpenToonz. So that's sort of the next few sections we're going to do. So the next one I want to look at is looking at the dust effect when it first leaves the ground, which is sort of a very simple, only a few framed effect. So I'm to draw that in neat and colour that in, ink that in. And then we'll get on to using some of the other effects. So the part that sounds really interesting, Inner City Scribes. Yeah, looking forward to hearing more about that. Just going through the chat now that I missed while I was away. You mentioned Colorado. The only thing I know about Colorado, the only slightly interesting fact, is that Mork and Mindy lived in Boulder, Colorado. I seem to recall them being at the sign at the start of the programme. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, looking forward to that. Okay, so the splash is done. I did wondering while I was downstairs getting a fresh drink, is if I should use the transparency node towards the last few frames of the splash there to make the water a little bit transparent. So I thought something we'll come back to later. But next, it's the dust from when he jumps. Let me show that here. So this circle around his feet of when he jumps. So it's just a little bit of a circle with some triangles coming out of it, which then quickly turns into the same thing we did for the ripples in the water, where the lines just get slightly smaller. I see a comment there from someone on Twitch trying to sell something. So going to frame 72, let's add a new smart raster level again. Let's name the level so I know what it is. We'll zoom in a little bit and then we'll just start adding some lines for that. Okay, so again I'll use a new colour. Let's put colour 1 to a bright red so don't mistake it. I think this will want to be a grey kind of colour for kind of a dust line possibly. I want the line width to vary a little bit. Let's just draw one line and then change the brightness of the sketch down a little bit. And let me change the colour to be a dark yellow, just so it really looks different from the colour I'm trying to use here. Okay. Right, so let's get started on inking this. So it's circular, so the outside can follow that circular line here. And then we've got this kind of zigzaggy look to it. I don't want smoothing on for this actually, so I can really make this look pointy. And then behind the monster, let me hide him, I think, if I can. There we are. I need to sort of have the background coming up like this, but also show the base. So let me just do these triangles first. They don't need to be exact at all. And then I think if I just do a circular arc around there, yeah, that'll be fine. And I can colour that in and leave the centre, so it's just a circle of dust that's rising from the ground. See how that goes. So again, 2 frames later, the next drawing. I've got the onion skin on to show where I've drawn. But the lines basically just get larger and disappear really quickly. So they don't grow larger, the line kind of breaks up really, really quickly. So this needs to be just a bigger version of this. So I'll probably use the paintbrush tool to fill in here because we haven't got a closed shape. Let's make this slightly larger. See how that looks. We need this to go outwards actually. It's moving out from the centre of the circle, so that really needs to move that way. In fact, so do these. Okay. And again, we'll come back and change this as necessary. So let's make this sketch a little bit darker there so I can see what lines I was showing before. So again, this line is getting larger, but it's breaking up now. And these lines again are slightly bigger, but they're breaking up also. Okay, and the next one, just smaller and smaller until they disappear. So again, the inside line here is getting bigger as well. Follow that through. Okay, Maria, yeah, no problem. Welcome back. Okay. So have this shrinking down one little piece at a time. Let's see again where the sketch goes. It is just smaller and smaller, so I don't really need the sketch, to be honest. I can just use the ink lines to get the spacing, I think. So again, slight movement of the inside lines, and these triangles are moving upwards, the points of that dust, but getting smaller. And I'm almost drawing these little lines on top of the other lines to really show very little movement in here. And I'll start to have some smaller ones disappear. And again, if you have them disappear at different times, it looks less mechanical. So last little pieces here. Okay, let's see how that looks. Save all. So let's make sure the sketch is hidden and only the ink is visible there. So let's see how that looks before we get any colour in there. Go to the, let's bring the monster back so we see where he is. And again, we change the playheads so you can see only the frames that we need. Let's rewind, zoom in slightly and hit play. Fine. Okay, let's add some colour into those. So we'll add another palette entry, choose a lighter kind of grey. I'll grab the paintbrush tool, I think, for this. And again, another feature of Tahoma 2D that's different than OpenToonz is for the paintbrush tool. If you've got a recent nightly build, you've now got a min and max size for the paintbrush tool. And on OpenToonz you only have one size, so you can only paint as a single circle. And for shapes like this, it's ideal to be able to vary the size from quite small to reasonably large. So you see there, if I bring the pointer on the screen, you can see two circles on the pointer for the min and max size. So I can use a lot of pressure to paint. Here we go, let's paint some areas, make sure I'm on the right one. Painting areas, pressure mode, yeah. A lot of pressure, I paint a large area, but I can use a small amount of pressure just to get into the corners of those triangles. So it's really handy in Tahoma 2D that in fact you've got this variance in size. And because it flies past quite quickly, I don't need to be really accurate again. But we'll be as accurate as we can to try and make it neat. So even though it is showing the dust kind of as a grey, I think, as I can see there where his leg is behind the dust, I think I will change the alpha, bring this down so you can see through a little bit. So if I make the colour a little bit darker, you still see through with some alpha reduced, so you still kind of got that grey colour, but you can see behind. And again, we'll colour the back part of this ring. Like I say, I've been really looking forward to getting to this stage to add these last few effects in here just to finish off this piece and to try and avoid feature creep as much as I can. So again, we've got you've got the vector option for auto fill, auto close, which could be useful for doing shapes like this. And it'd be great, I've said before to Manon and John, it'd be great if it's possible to get that feature in smart raster levels, because I would love to be able to use that in smart raster levels for colouring. It'd be so much quicker to be able to quickly block down a rough area and then erase some parts out to cut into it, or add some colour in to add to it. I think that'd be really, really good to have. Okay, so now's the part where it's kind of complicated of what to colour in. So I'm not having all of this coloured. So we'll see how this goes. I'll just colour in the top parts of the triangles first. And then bring this down a little bit. It's around the edge here. say, it flies by, so you might not need to have a super neat bit of colour just to see the rough block of colour moving. It's something that I've not had time to experiment with, so I thought we'd do so on the stream and see how it looks together. Yeah, I spoke to Manong John a while back about that, Maria, about is it possible to add in, would it be a huge task, because it would be such a useful feature, because especially if you're using alpha changes in the colour, because if you draw one block of colour and then you draw a second block of colour, in vector levels they stack on each other, and where they overlap you get a darker version of that colour, whereas in Smart Raster you don't, because in vector you have kind of the two different shapes. It remembers the individual shapes. As you keep piling them on top of each other you get additions to the colour, and that's handy in some situations, but for like now it'd be great to just block in some areas of colour. But it's not here yet, but hopefully at some point it will turn up. Okay, let me raise this so that we've got just the triangles with some dust colour in them. And I do want to add actually a bit of some black lines against the side of it, a little bit of kind of cross hatching. So we'll come back to that separately. For now, let me just get some colour in here. And again, it's something else to catch your eye. Whereas in the sketch level, we was talking earlier about what's your favourite part of the process, sketching, ink, paint or what have you. In the sketch level, these were only lines, they were only ever lines. But now I'm adding some fill to them, they'll look a bit different, they'll catch your eye differently because it's a large block of triangle moving rather than just a single line. So adding colour can make a lot of difference. Hello there, SA80, what's the software name? This is Tahoma 2D. It's a fork of OpenToonz, so it's basically the same as OpenToonz, but with a couple of few extra user-friendly features. But you've got basically the same features in both programs. So OpenToonz or Tahoma 2D, and I've got links to both of them in the description. So if you want to take a look at that, you can see the websites and download the programs yourself and try them out. They're both free, so you can animate for free. You don't need to pay anything for them. Add some grey around here as well, I think, a bit more dust. A bit more around the middle, just to kind of hint at where that circle is. It's going to fly by quite quickly, but I still wanted to do that. Yeah, give it a go. If you've not used the program before, then do download it and try it out. Over on my YouTube channel, which again is linked down below, I've got plenty of beginner tutorials for getting started with the programs, or if you join us over on our Discord server, you can see them there as well. And also on the Discord server you'll find lots of friendly folks that can help you out if you're struggling at all. So we're almost finished here with this part of the colouring of the animation. And even without running it, I think I'm feeling this was going to look a lot better. I'll leave it up there like that. Okay, so a little bit more colour for the last couple of frames, and then we'll see how this looks. And if you're doing this kind of thing yourself and you're really unsure, you ought to be stepping through it. So either playing the animation, hit save there, playing the animation or hitting the keys to run through it and to take a look to see if you're comfortable with how it's coming out. But personally, it just looks right at the minute. It looks kind of how I imagined it would be. You turn on the onion skin, so I can see where the previous lines were. Just to really get the colours right and the placement. Okay, next. So yeah, so this is the last bit, I think, of ink and paint that I want to add for this little animation. And next we'll be looking at putting in some effects. Only a couple of small ones. I think that's it there, you know. Add a couple of bits of grey. Oops. Bring it down just a small 1 pixel. Just over the parts that have disappeared there. Great. So again, rewind, zoom out a little bit, and hit loop play. I'm not sure if I actually need those lines at the back or if they're distracting. I might remove those. So let me go to the eraser. We're in normal mode and it's lines only, I think. I think they're just lines. Make it slightly larger. And just get rid of this. And again for the next one, get rid of lines and areas this time. Remove those little fills I had. I think that's a little bit distracting having that there. It's fine at the bottom, but at the back that doesn't help. So let me add on this line up here first. I do want it moving with it. Like that, so it's very simple. And now use the dust colour line just to keep that moving. I'm not even sure you'll notice it. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, and again, like a lot of these effects, there's many ways you can do this, and you may think of a better one or prefer a different style. For me, I'm happy with that. So again, I'm going to the backups. I've already hit save. Let's change this name. So I've got a named version with dust. Make a copy. See all the other times I press save there. there's the water complete, there's the dust, and then delete all non-named, and it removes all but the ones I've named. So that's fine, I've got that there. So the final things I wanted to do was to add some effects using the FX nodes. So very simple, nothing too exciting or complicated with this. So let me take a look here. Go back to frame 1, let's reset the playhead for full animation. Right click on frame 1, choose set start marker. Go to the final frame of 148, right click and choose set stop marker. So I've got the full animation set up. So I set the background of the sky and grass using two rectangles filled with a gradient, but they've got a tight joining line of where they connect, and I wanted that to be slightly blurred to be more realistic kind of thing. It is supposed to be the background after all, it's supposed to be a long way away, so it ought to really not have a tight clean line, and it's something that's easy to add in. So if we go to the FX room, make sure we're in the FX view, which we are. You can see it stop there, FX schematic. Absolutely soda pop. Whether you use my tool or you use a backup system in OpenToonz, or you manually copy and paste your project folder, which just works as well, definitely need to get a backup system running before you start your big project. So yeah, absolutely. And again, if you want to have a chat about it, let me know. There is a video showing how to use it, and it's fairly straightforward, I think. But yeah, do let me know if you want to chat about that. So the column of BG has got the sky and grass in it. So that's this one here. So if I right click and choose Insert FX, Blur, and then Blur. I did save a setup for a test for macro in there, so let me just right click on that. I can't delete it from here, can I? So I'll do that separately offline. So for now, Insert FX, Blur, Blur, Blur. There we go. I'll turn on the preview mode, and immediately you see how blurred that is at the background. But that's too blurred really, so I'll double click on that. That's appeared on a separate screen, and that's set to 45 pixels, which is just huge. I only want a slight blur, so let's bring this down to 5 and then press tab, and as soon as you leave the text box it applies the values there. About 10, a little bit stronger. Fine, I just want to not have a smooth cut off between the two. I'll keep increasing, I think. That'll do, that's perfectly fine. So I'm not going to keyframe that to change at all, I just want to set it to have that blur colour. Next was the clouds, and again I'd like to blur those a little bit. They look a little bit too neat, a little bit too crisp, only slightly. So I want a blur for that. So again, I'll right click, Insert Effects, Blur, Blur, Blur. Double click it and set the number, put 20 in there first. And if I turn the preview mode off and on, you can see what it's like with and without. So without the blur, as I'm looking on my screen, because obviously it's taking up the whole screen here, I can see kind of individual brush strokes. When I turn on the preview, they're blurred together, which gives more of a cotton wool feel. Let me go a little bit further, see if that helps. 30. Didn't change it too much, but again, that's okay. It needs to be a fluffy, distant look, so I'll leave that at 30, exactly right. And you'll see me moving the nodes around as I'm doing this, just to keep things organised so I can see what I've worked on. Makes it a bit easy to see what you've yet to work on. So that's the background. I wanted to look at the shadow, which I purposely left at the sketch version of the shadow. Make sure that's visible. And I used the charcoal brush, which gave a nice little effect. It kind of looked like the pencil moving, the drawing moving a little bit underneath thing. But I was going to see if, again, adding a blur to it to make it more of a consistent singular shape might be a better thing to do. So let's find the shadow column. Ah, it's hiding behind that group. Why have I got a group in here? Let me hit save before I do anything, and then right click and open the group, see what's in there. That's the old background. Fine. And close that, and I will ungroup because I don't need that column anyway. Also don't need the reflection, that's the sketch of that. So here's the shadow. Again, right click, insert effects, blur, blur, blur. And if I preview straight away, it totally disappears. Double click it, it's on 45, so let's bring it down to 0. No blur at all. And now I can increase it slowly, 5 at a time, to see how it looks. That's not too bad. Let me just press play. It'll go slowly as it caches each frame. And I've said to people before, don't be afraid to try the effects. If they don't work, you can just delete them and go back to where you were before, or press undo, or roll back to a previous save. But do give them a go and see if they will help in your situation. Let's rewind and play that again. Now they're cached. I quite like that. And if anything, that's slightly darker. I might need to lighten it. Let me increase the value again to 10. Let's see if that's too much. I don't think that's too much at all. No. I'm going to leave that there. But what I will do, let's lighten this slightly by clicking on the arrow and the column header and bring down the opacity a little bit. And for that to appear on the preview, you need to go to the scene menu, scene settings, and tick the box at the bottom to enable the transparency to be rendered. And now that transparency will be used here. So you can bring it all the way down. You see it disappear, or find the level where you think the shadow needs to be. So it doesn't need to be super strong, it just needs to give us the feeling of the shadow so we can see where the ground is when he jumps into the air. It just looks a little bit clearer for that. And see how that looks for the whole animation rather than watching it in the main viewer. Again, we'll go to the preview window, and this time it'll take fairly no time at all to preview all those frames. And remember, this is set to the shrink value of 2, so it's rendering at half the size. So if I right click and choose reset view, that's the actual size it's rendered at. So I'm taking a look at this shadow under his feet, considering the clouds here and the edge of the view. All the things I've changed in those effects. Let's loop play that. I think I'm going to make that a little bit lighter again, that shadow. So again, from the drop down in the column header, it's on 82%. Let's bring it down to 70. And preview that. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Let's hit save on that. Okay, happy person. Enjoy your snacks. I'll be here for at least probably half an hour or so, so hopefully I'll catch you later on today. I've not seen the blob macro. What does that do, Soda Pop? I wasn't intending to do too much for the water. have a look at that. But the next thing I did want to look at was the reflection in the water. Ah, there he is, monster reflection. So it's only a few frames here. Let me turn off the preview. You can see him reflected, but it's far too sharp. So I was going to change that by going to the monster reflection node, and to check that's the right one, I can click the preview button there. No, that's the monster ink. Is it this one here? Yep, monster reflection, that's the one. Oh, yeah, I'd not come across that. Did he share that in one of the channels on the OpenToonz site, I guess? Let me build up what I was thinking of for this first and see how that looks. So I'll add a blur first. Let's go to a frame with a large part of the image in it. There we are. Turn on preview, double click the blur. We're on to small blur, so start at 5 again. Maybe a little more, try 10. Possibly too much. So go down to 7. We'll come back to that. Okay, do you remember which channel it's in? Because I'd like to grab that and try that sometime anyway. I'll still keep meddling with the standard effects here. So that's blurred. If I go back to the node, column node, then right click and insert, this will insert between the column and the blur node. I want to change the colour or the image. So it's sort of the brightness, the contrast, the levels, exposure. Yeah, it's all of that kind of thing. Let me try the exposure. Just as I've said before, have a play with some of these sliders and see what they'll do for you. So that's to make it more exposed. Let's make it less. No, it just makes it darker. So I don't want that. So I'll right click on that node and I can replace it with another one. Look at the levels, see what that does. Yeah, we can change the alpha, bring it down a little bit. Don't want as much colour, so I can bring the outputs of those down, possibly, see how they look. Yeah, please, thank you. I'll bring the blue down as well. I missed that one. That's kind of made it a darker colour. Okay, close that. And again, I'll insert another one in there. Before I do, let's hit save. Save early, save often. And let me grab this macro that SodaPop sent through to me. Blob FX. Marvellous. Okay, let me bring that in and see how that looks. And I'll compare that to what I'm putting together here manually. Okay, so there's the downloaded blob effects. So let me unzip that, extract all. And then I'll copy that. I'll go to my Tahoma folder. Okay, let's bring this in. If I can remember where to put it, go to Tahoma stuff, FX, presets, macro effects. I've already got quite a few. I've got the blob effects in there. Okay. That's interesting. So I've already got that. Let's see what that can do. Macro blob. Ooh. Got a few inputs there then. Colton Slime, hello, welcome. Good to have you here today. Instead of using those two, let me plug this straight into one of the inputs and then to the scene. Delete that one there, so it's only coming through the blob effect. Let me plug it through to all three. You see what the options are by double clicking. We've got a few in here. Bring the blur down a little bit. Body highlight, lighten, put it over. Oh, got quite a few changes. Oh, lots of changes. I think I'm gonna have to experiment with that off this stream, so let me delete the connections to it. What I will do is I'll leave that effect in the schematic for this scene so I can come back and look at that later. For now I'll keep fiddling with the small changes that I've got in here. I also want to change the transparency, but I can do that on the column, so I don't need to add a transparency node. So I'll just literally drag down the opacity a little bit. And the last thing I wanted to try and do is to have a kind of a bit of a ripple, if I can, on here. Yeah, those macros, I've got quite a few that I picked up over the years. I need to zip them up and have them available on the Discord, I think, at some point. I've not used all of them very often, so I need to have a look at some of these and remind myself what they all are. And then put something together for those possibly, so other people can see them as well. But thanks for reminding me about that one, Soda Pop. I'll take a look at that, as I say, when I've got more time to investigate. So let me insert one more effect, and let's see if I can find where it is. Noise, dissolve. Double click on that. Let's have a look at this. Change the intensity. And as I keep saying, feel free to just, oh, that's the dissolve one. Feel free to just create some of these effects like I'm doing here. Try them out. If they don't work, remove them and try another. So I did find a nice effect before that I used for a drawing I did on the water. I don't think it's any of those. Distort. Ah! Linear wave. Yeah, if I let's hit save on that. If I jump back to the study room, have a quick look. So straight above my head there, the top picture, the pool house. I made that with the original Tahoma 2D perspective tools just to try them out. But for the pool, I had a reflection of the house in there and used an effect to give it that wibbly wobbly, watery look. So I've used a couple of these before, but it was a bit tricky and took a bit of working out to get the look that I wanted. So let's see what we can do today. I just want a very simple look on this. You've got lots of options you can change. And as with a lot of these effects, if you can change just one at a time to understand what they do, that's a lot better. So with preview turned on, we can go in and start changing some. So let's bring down the intensity first. Put it down to 0. Let it catch up a second and then draw that. unless that is the 0 version. Adjust it slightly. Just want to see it redrawn. Here we go. Okay, so it depends really how strong an effect you want, because having it totally distorted could be useful if he moves across the water enough so you can see the distortion as he moves over each frame. One thing I want to point out that I've not mentioned today is with effects, I've been typing in numbers into the box to change the blurs, which is fine to do if you want to pick numbers. Some variables have sliders you can drag around, but all of them have this thin black line under the box, and you can click on that and drag that and adjust the value by small amounts at a time, which is really useful for some of these more sensitive effects. If it's close, you just want to adjust it a little bit, just drag that and see what you get. So that's the intensity. Let's see what else we've got. The amplitude of the wave, how strong is the distortion? It's on 112, let's come down to 50. Right, so it's not very strong there, so let's come back to almost normal. Let's go 150. There goes more wibbly wobbly. Number of waves, 20, I'll give it 40. Again, doubling and halving numbers or increasing by 10 can be useful to see what the difference makes. The period of each wave is how often the wave occurs. Let me put that higher. No, that made it more normal almost. We go to 100. I wonder if that's about percentages rather than pixels. So let's come down to 30, a smaller number. And again, it's just a matter of dropping numbers in, changing the values, see what works for you. So it was sort of an in-between number that worked before. Is this actually refreshing? I'm not sure. Changing the intensity now to see if that makes a difference. Right, you can see the waves there at the top. And some of these options are really useful when animated over time, so you can really see the movement. Let me come back to here and see how it looks on each frame. Hit play and it'll slowly calculate each frame. It's going to be a slow process, but let's just see what it does. Because those frames here you can't see what the shape is at all, so that is too strong of an effect. So let's come back to one of those. Again, run through the frames and see if we can see a difference. Okay, let's try the sensitivity, see what that does. Feels like it should be a kind of randomizer for the numbers. The more sensitivity it is, the more it can change the numbers, but that doesn't seem to change too much either. Absolutely, Penguin. Experiment. And thanks for joining us today. I've been really enjoying your videos on YouTube of your progress of your short that you're working on. Thanks for sharing those. Looking forward to seeing the next ones every time I see another. But yeah, have a play with it, with the effects. Some are really easy to use. Others, like this one, quite complicated. But just drag the sliders around, try different numbers. If it doesn't work, just delete it. But it's quite good for throwing some effects onto your screen, because if I turn off the effect at the minute, I basically copied the or traced a copy of the monster drawing below, and it's far too neat and crisp. But with the effects I've got on so far, it now kind of makes it more dull, kind of a more reflective view of him. I'd like to make this a bit wavy though, and I'm struggling with getting this started, so I'm going to start again So there's the linear wave effect. I'm going to tap delete to remove it. I'm going to add a new one. Distort linear wave. Just so I can start again with the initial values. Yeah, it is, Maria. It's really good, but it's just a bit fiddly to understand what all the values do for this one. Also, the period is quite high, 225. I thought it was like just 25. So let me go to 150, so it's not quite as strong. Ooh. Well, I thought it wasn't quite as strong. 100. And this is one of those processes that's perhaps best when you're not live streaming, people looking over your shoulder, kind of a slow process. But let me take a look at these. Okay, it affects the first few drawings more than the later ones, because it's affecting the bottom part, which is quite interesting. Oh, okay. Let me see what you've done for me then, Soda Pop. Download that. There we go. Good, and you've called it a different name, which is really handy. So I'll copy that into my macro effects folder. So if I try and add one now, will it refresh? Let's try again up here. Add effects, macro. No, I think I need to restart. So that's saved, and I will actually restart. Okay, I'll try that. Yeah, the effects can really slow down the renders, but some of them are worth doing. And again, this is what I was talking about in my last video about pre-rendering or taking a snapshot of if it's the background you've added the effect to, then it's worth taking a snapshot of that one frame, because then you can work with that one frame throughout the rest of your animation, and you've got the speed increase already. So you render it once as a single image and then use that single image through the animation. It can be useful, but if it's on a moving character, not quite as useful, but you can still do it. Depending on how much the character moves, it might be worth pre-rendering some. There's the water effect. Okay, the water macro. Let's do as you say then. Let's delete that connection. Move along to where the reflection is. Ah, there we go. And turn on rendering. Let's connect this into your water. And you say connect it into all three. 1, 2, 3. Quite blue. Yeah, that's come out quite blue, and you've lost the definition of the drawings. You can kind of see it, but it's kind of lost the lines. I'm going to leave that for now. Thanks for sending that through though. I will take a look at that. Again, I'll leave that at the top there. And I'll take a look at that, and that'll be useful, I'm sure, in some situations. But I think I'll leave that to try and get a bit more detail in, so I can more easily see the character through the reflection. We bring that over here. Onto just it slightly, it's irritating that it's causing all the reflection near the edges. On the first couple of drawings where there's only drawing at the edges, it's really distorted. So let's bring down the intensity. See if that helps. possibly, let me again hit save and preview. Yeah, just as a reflection kind of the character. So you'll see it here as he jumps over the water, you see his reflection, but I don't want it as a crisp, as it was originally a crisp colour, as though he's jumping over a mirror. I wanted it with some distortion and colour change. To be honest, it goes by that quickly. You don't really see the distortion, but I'm happy enough that that's a bit of a reflection without looking, as I say, like a mirror. So I'm going to leave that there for that one. And I think there was only one final thing I wanted to do. Looking down my list here. Yeah, I wanted to try something that I've not tried before. No problem, Soda Pop. I appreciate you sending that through. Possibly Maria. I'm going to skirt over that. So the final thing I was considering was let's change to a different drawing. That'll do. I've used lots of very bright colours here. Go back to frame 1. I don't like the way you've got this overlap here. Let me go to the grass, move it up a tiny bit. Undo. That's vector colouring again, going wrong. We try moving that sky down. Nope, undo that. In that case, it'll be fine. Oh, sorry, the cast shadow effect for the reflection. Possibly, yes, you could have used that. I did use the original drawings before and flipped them down, so I kind of did a manual cast shadow effect, and then I hand drew the ink and paint. So there's few drawings that we've got here. That I've got here are in a separate level that I hand drew after I traced over a reflection. So it kind of was that, but to save using masks, because I'd have to mask it to the water, I thought I'd just hand draw it for the sake of a few frames. But yeah, absolutely you could use the cast shadow effect for that. Yeah, so all the colours are very bright. So I wanted to tone them down a little bit. So I could easily go into each level and adjust the alpha or change the colours to bring down the saturation. So for instance, if I go back to the drawing room and look at the background and go to the grass colours, I could easily bring down the saturation of the grass for each of the colours. So it's a little bit more dull. But instead of doing that, I thought I'd try and apply an effect to the whole scene for a change, which I've not done before. I know you can do it, but I've not done it. And you can do that by putting an effect after the scene, but before the output. So that allows you to quickly throw an effect over everything without having to adjust the columns or insert a spare column or a peg. So I've not tried that, so I don't know which effect I want to use for this. It might be fairly simple, or might just give up and leave it. So let me right click on the scene, insert effect, image adjust, I think. In the same way as I adjusted the colour of the reflection, I'll do a similar sort of thing for the main scene. So let me look at levels. And again, double click on that, turn on the preview, and if I try just bringing down the output, that makes it darker. No, try another one. So again, I've not looked at this in detail or planned exactly what I want, so bear with me as we look at this together. HLS, which is hue, lightness, saturation, I'm guessing. Adjust. If I plug that into the reference as well and double click on the options, what can I do with this? So let me just try adjusting some of these. Bring down the lightness. Okay, back to 0. It's a saturation really I want to bring down. But it may be just the background rather than the whole thing, because the monster's going paler there. Yeah, so let me try that. I'll plug the scene back into the output to bring it back where it was. Let me try it on the background. So the grass and the sky that I've already got with the blur, let me plug that into the center of that and try adjusting just that, because it was really the grass and the sky that looked just too bright. So bring that down further. If I turn off the preview and back on again, you can see the colours are less saturated, so it's like a dull day almost, but you've still got the same colour there. That's kind of what I wanted, I think, for that. Because again, that's still supposed to be the background, so I didn't want it in my face. And I didn't want to go in and to have to adjust each of the colours, or to try and rely on an effect. So let me preview the whole thing there and see how that looks. And again, because it fills the whole screen, let's reset the view. So it's 100%, so it's less blurred and it looks a lot clearer. And let's play that and see how it looks. I think I need to change the colour of the water, the splashed water. That's quite a deep blue. So let me go to where the splash is kind of at its peak and select on one of the drawings. Excuse me. Let's take a look at these colours. So I've got the outside line there is quite a dark blue, so I can bring that down. The second colour is the main watercolour. Adjust that to be nearer to the main water. Let me try the RGB colour picker and pick the same colour as the actual water and then adjust it from there. It's quite bright, so bring that in. Yeah, I thought about that, the opacity earlier. I was thinking about changing it. Let me give that a go. Don't want it too low, but try that. So that lighter blue, that's quite light. Make it a little bit bluer. And the dark one again, make you a little bit lighter. So there's less contrast between the two, but you still got the colours in there. Just realised I didn't actually colour the next frame. Let me select that colour. In the next frame, fill that. Yes, so I just missed the one off there, that's fine. Okay, let me try again with the preview. This time, let's put the shrink back to 1. So I get full size preview. Again, in the preview view, it's so much quicker to render all of those effects compared to the main viewer window for some reason. If only we could have the main viewer working as quickly as that. So let's see. Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's a lot better with a bit of transparency in there, I think. I didn't, Jimpy, I didn't use the effects. The monster was, originally I took the drawings for the monster jumping into the water, copied them into another column, flipped them using the animate tool so that he was running below himself and jumped in the water kind of thing in the reflection. And then in a separate level, I traced over them and drew just the part that's in the water, so they're now separate drawings. But you're right, the splash could easily have a reflection there. But the monster reflection was done a couple of weeks ago on one of the streams, so you could easily skip back and have a quick glance at that. It won't take long to find, I'm sure. Yeah, the transparency is a lot nicer. Good shout, everyone. Thank you for that. Really useful. Again, that's why we're here. Great. Well, I'm going to call that finished. I will sleep on this and I'll have a think if I want to change anything else. I might make a few minor changes, but I'm going to render this out and pop it on the Discord server and tweet it out and all the usual stuff. Let me grab a copy of this and put final from stream so I know exactly where I am. Oh, in fact, that's gone peculiar, so I'm not going to worry about that just yet. I will render that out and pop that onto the Discord server so you can take a look. But I'm going to leave that exactly there and call that end of the day for the stream. So unless anyone's got any final questions, we're going to call that quits. I'll give it a few seconds. And next week, what do I plan to do? Well, start a new project next week, but I don't have a large one because I'm thinking of taking a break over Christmas. But I'm thinking of, because next Friday I'm to put a video together about the perspective tools into Homer, next Sunday I was thinking of actually just drawing something using the perspective tools. So not an animation, but a drawing, something Christmassy, possibly. I'm still working out what it'll be. Just to have a practice with the tools and for you to watch how they can be used and maybe make any suggestions again that you may have. So that'll be next Sunday. So I hope you can join me for that. So I'll leave it just there. Thanks for joining me today. Really appreciate your company. Great to have you with me. And hopefully I'll see you next Sunday. So if you've done any animation or drawings today, don't forget to share them over on the Discord. I'll be taking a look at that later on this evening. And I'll see you next Sunday for another stream. And that's a Darren Tea. Have you always wanted to animate but didn't know how to start and software seemed expensive and difficult to use? Well, with OpenToonz, it's free, powerful, and once you know how, it's easy to use. And it's my mission to get you animating with it today. Hi, my name's Darren, and I've been teaching OpenToonz for the past 3 years, showing thousands of students just like you how easy it is to animate with. I'm cutting through the jargon to show that anyone can animate with it. And by the end of the course, you'll be able to animate traditionally using OpenToonz. And the course is designed for students brand new to OpenToonz, as well as those new to animation. So take a look at the free lessons I've offered below, and then why not sign up and join me animating traditionally with OpenToonz.